Hi, welcome to this video of PowerShell training. In this video, we will discuss about some tips and tricks while using PowerShell. So let's begin. Let's open our framework. Let me copy it to a blank script so that I can explain. Alright, the first tip is to validate your syntax in your script. So let's assume we are creating this script and mistakenly we type extra curly bracket and we are not able to identify. So whenever you do such mistakes, then PowerShell will always highlight that thing into red. Okay, you will get something underlined with red color, and if you click or not click, you just take your mouse at that red color, you will see what is the error message. Okay, and I try to always write my script in such a format. Like if I start, I usually use the 3 sections that we use in framework, and if I have to write a script like for each loop, then first of all I create a closing bracket, get extra space, and start adding whatever things I have to add over here. That's how you maintain your flow and keep track of everything. So as you can see here, missing variable name, it is giving. That's how it is. Then if you have to use multiple conditions, what I recommend is you start with this line and use some indentation, something like this. And if I have to go further, I use another condition like while loop and this one. So this becomes easier for your script troubleshooting if something is not working, and you should leverage this expansion and collapsation of these options in your script. This is how it looks. Alright, so let's talk about some other things. If there is a command called something, and people usually do something like this, select or something. So what I do is I usually prefer the full form of the command instead of shortcuts. So for each object, we can do this one, or the shortcut is whatever variable name and percent we have to execute. So this percent sign is nothing but a shortcut for each object, but the thing I want to tell you is that never use shortcuts. It is okay to use where you understand the script, you can refer it back, but if you have to provide it to somebody else and he or she has to understand what you have written, then a shortcut makes their task very complex. So it is always advisable to use a full form of the scripts instead of shortcuts. So we have the shortcut PS for process. So instead what we can do is we can use the full command, which is get process. Okay, now this for each object is different than this for each. Okay, whenever you mention for each object, the dynamic variable becomes this one. Okay, and you have to mention the property of that variable, and that's how you can use it. While in this for each loop, we have to define that variable separately. Alright, then there are different data types in PowerShell. So let's take an example of Excel. If you right click on Excel cell and see what all data types are available, you see text format, number, currency, accounting, date, time, percent, and everything. Similarly, in PowerShell, we can have different data types, and those can be mentioned as, let's say, date time, and you have to provide the details. Okay, so basically this data will be entered as date time here, and if you have to look at what is the data type, you will have to use this command, get type. Close it, this one, so it will show it is date time. So let's overwrite this variable with some value and see how it looks. Alright, now if I have to check what is the data type of my variable, get type, it will show as string. So there are multiple data types like string, integer, and date time, which you can use in your script. Also you can use two strings. Let's say I have to convert this value into uppercase, I can use this. So this is how you can use the various data types in PowerShell. Alright, now let's talk about something about the execution. Now in our framework, what I have done is I've created a PS object every time I input this value, and at the end of the script we export it into a file. But instead of that, what we can do is we can just create the output in double quotes like item, and separate them with commas or semicolon, however you want, and we can just out them to the output file. So every time you execute any command on this item, the dynamic variable of the list, it will send the output to the output file, and we have to append it. So let's say you have hundreds of items and script has to be stopped in between, then whatever the execution happened, you can just have that output in output file. So it is not hard and fast that you should follow this practice. It is just a guideline, and you can have your own logic what you want to do with the script. Alright, so let's discuss about the next thing, which is while loop, which is very useful in complex operations. So the syntax is very simple, while. So this is where we mention our condition. So whatever condition is this, unless this is fulfilled, the code is getting executed in loop. So to explain you in a better way, let's create a variable with the value 0, and I give a condition while I is less than 10. I define some action. Let's write I, and in order for you to understand in a better way, I'll just add a delay of 2 seconds, and let's execute this. So the value of I is 0. It will write the value of I. Okay. Now it has gone into an indefinite loop, because unless and until this value becomes greater than 10, it will not change. So what we will do is we do that I is equal to I plus 1. Okay, this is just another method. Or what we can do is I plus plus. So every time it go through this loop, it will add a number into I. So let's try to execute it now. As you can see, it is increasing the number, and the loop will be broken after the 10 executions once the value is greater than or equal to 10. This is how it works. So with simple operations to gather the details or do some actions, this while loop is not that much effective. But if you want to execute some complex logics or operations, this is very useful when you have to compare the time or output from previous command and to use it in the next command. All right. So let's discuss how you write some complex script. So what usually I do is whenever I get a requirement or I have to write a script, I break it into small pieces. So in this case, in our framework, what we have done is we have basically broken our script into 3 different sections. The first section, we decide what inputs we have to provide. The second section, what operations we have to perform. And the third section, how we manage the output. So there could be some complex script that you have to design. So in that case, what you have to do is you have to break those operations into small pieces, develop the code for those small pieces, test them, and create a whole bunch of script. So while creating the small pieces, what I suggest is you first find out that command, what exactly you want to do, how the output should be formatted or presented to the next piece. Once you identify that command, you test that command on your own computer or a test computer, how it works, how the output is generated. Once that command is identified, you run it for probably 1 or 2 objects in the input file and see if the output is getting generated as expected. And once you have that confidence that it is working correctly, then you can run it on the final target items. And if you are not able to think how you can design that script, you can always use Excel format to write down the actions over here, and to create a simple workflow, what has to be happened after first action, if the output is yes or no, true, false, maybe. When you create this simple workflow and you start designing the code for small actions, you get clarity about the big picture. So that's how it is, and I think that's all about the shortcuts, tips and tricks about using PowerShell. I have tried to provide as much details as possible. I know it's not complete, but it's always the approach that you follow, how it should be done or how it can be done. That's how it is. Thank you for watching this video. Have a good day.